joined at this time by a special guest, a man who not only led Nebraska in interceptions his senior season, he also led the conference. He also has 25 years of college football coaching experience. Mr. Kenny Wilhite, how you doing, my friend?
What's up? How are you, Adam?
Dude, life is good. I appreciate you taking the time. So there's a bunch of questions that I want to dive into and ask you about. So we might as well get the first one out of the way because you coached with Frost. All right, what are your reactions to some of the things that he's had to say recently pertaining to coaching Nebraska and et cetera?
Man, it's been a struggle. It's been crazy listening to some of the things that he's said since he's been gone. Some of the comments that have been made about it. My take on it, I listened to Jay Foreman yesterday, and I think Jay made a good point. Frost coming back should have reached out to guys he played with, you know, and had a meeting with them. But also the guys that were on staff with him that had ties to Nebraska and leaned on them a little bit more. I think he should have taken the high road by saying, you know, things didn't work out the way he quite planned. He appreciated the opportunity he had to come back and work here as a head coach. Because as you know, he was a great player for the university, won a championship with the university, and I think some people on the station have also said, put those things aside, the record speaks for itself. So with that being said, I think he should have taken the high road and worded it a little better. Now he's put it out there. Now he's got a target on his chest. So it's tough to read. It's tough to read and hear him say those things. But as a guy that was on his staff, you know, some of the things you hear, unfortunately, they're true. So he made his bed. He has to lay in it.
Why do you think he doesn't take the high road? Or just move on? And I know the question was brought to him, what'd you learn from Nebraska? But why does he take the answer that direction? And it's not the first time he's done it since he's been at UCF. And when he's been asked questions, why do you think he continues to do that?
Somebody asked me, is he that arrogant or does he know? I think he needs a PR guy. I think he needs somebody to help him. Is it arrogance? Some of it is. I think he needs to be humble. I think he needs to bite his tongue sometimes. Sometimes you may say things that you regret after you say them. You do things you regret after doing them. But in this situation, the high road would have been a much better out for him.
Yeah, for sure. And we're now at a point where it's been a couple of times. It's not just one time as well. But I just want to get your quick thoughts on that. Now I want to move forward. Okay, because Joel Klatt, we just played a clip this last segment. He thinks Nebraska will go 10-2 this year. That's pretty lofty. Obviously, we've seen teams, I pointed out, SMU, Indiana, who surprise everybody every year. What are your thoughts on Nebraska's potential, and I'm going to phrase it this way, of taking that typical Matt Rule year 3 jump, which to me is winning at least 9 games from 7 a year ago, if you're going to talk about a jump?
I saw that too. 10-2 is a high number. I mean, the schedule's in Nebraska's favor. As an alum, I'm going to always root for the university. Everybody keeps talking about Matt Rule's year 3 and how he done it at Temple, how he done it at Baylor. This is a different university. This is University of Nebraska. You're in the Big Ten. You're in a different conference. 10-2 is up there. I looked at the schedule the other day, and I'm like Bach. I heard Bach. I can't say 9. It's hard for me to say 8 because there's always going to be a team to sneak up on you. Week 1 will be week 1 and 2 will be the telltale factor. And the down the stretch, you know, there's some tough teams down the stretch. I heard you say USC is winnable. If you look at USC's roster compared to Nebraska's roster, I'm pretty sure USC has a little bit better talent than University of Nebraska. Now, talent doesn't always win games. So it's going to boil down to coaching. Can they outcoach Lincoln Riley? Can they scheme enough to keep those athletes off balance? So there's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of question marks going into the season, special team, defense. I know you have Dylan Ryota at quarterback. You have a lot of different puzzles on the offensive side of the ball. O-line play, and can Emmett Johnson be that workhorse for you?
It's interesting, Kenny, too. And I wanted to ask you because I saw this list come out that had the top 25 players in the Big Ten. even had 10 extra ones, and Nebraska wasn't on there. When you talk about the talent for Nebraska and on this roster, and obviously, there's a ceiling, kind of compared to that talent. You mentioned how much important coaching is going to be, but it just feels like there's a whole lot of guys ready to break out and become that next level that they can be. Do you think that this talent on the roster is that of what we're kind of talking about, of rising up and winning 9-10 games?
And again, you said there's not a Nebraska player in the top 25.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So there's a talent discrepancy, not only in the Big Ten, but around the country. So if you don't have any players on the Big Ten top 25 list, somebody knows something, right? So again, it's going to boil down to, some of it's going to boil down to coaching. Some of it's going to boil down to schemes. And then you got to factor in some injuries may happen. Is there talent on the roster to win 8 or 9 games? There's a lot of question marks. I mean, like I just said, defensive side of the ball. Offensively, can the O-line hold up and protect Dillon? The receivers they brought in, are they as good as they are on paper? They played in a different conference. Again, this is the Big Ten. So there's a lot of question marks going into it. And again, the telltale factor is there's not a Nebraska player in the top 25 in the Big Ten.
So there's some things Nebraska obviously needs to improve on quite a bit. There's obviously some question marks. There's obviously some things to be optimistic about. Mike Eckler on special teams. I legit expect our special teams to be noticeably to considerably better. If you could pick one thing and say this is one thing that Nebraska is definitely going to be better at that will have the biggest impact on whether we win or lose more games, in your opinion, what would that one thing be?
Quarterback play. Now you have an OC that's been here a year with him now. It'll be a year, almost a year going into the season. Not a year, but they've been together long enough. You have a quarterback's coach. You don't have a guy. The mechanics should be better. As you watch his mechanics dip a little bit last year throughout the season. Mechanically, he should be better. I think knowing what he and the OC, Dana, wants to do, them two guys should be on the same page. And I think that play should be a lot better.
That's interesting. You referenced the mechanics of Dylan Raiola, because I agree with you as far as the improvement and needing to be improved and making a big impact on us winning more games. What did you see when you watched Dylan? He's a young quarterback, teenager, true freshman a year ago. You expect him to get better, including mechanics. But what did you see from his mechanics specifically that you would like to see improved this year?
Just the sidearm release of his ball, throwing off the back foot. Again, he has a strong arm, so he relied on that strength of his arm, throwing off his back foot, throwing sidearms. Now, some of the sidearm throws were pretty good, but some of them that's when the ball floated on him or it got away from him. So mechanically, I think he should be a lot better this year. He's a great football player. I think he's a good leader, and I think that he should have a breakout year as long as the O-line can hold up in front of him.
Dude, I think you make a really good point, because a lot of times when you're really good at something, like with Dylan, you have a really strong arm. Maybe you rely on that strong arm and you don't focus as much on the fundamentals and basics because you can get away with having a strong arm. Kind of like sometimes we have a really fast quarterback, they'll take off if there's an opening rather than staying in the pocket, and maybe they aren't as good as going through their progressions and reads as another quarterback who can't take off and run. So you make a very good point of just getting better at basics and fundamentals, and then you throw the physical talent on top of it. That could be a huge difference maker. I wanted to thank you for showing up, coming out to the camp yesterday, coaching the kids. So I really appreciate that. I think everyone had a blast, but I wanted to get your thoughts on your experience at the camp. What did you think, and what was your takeaway?
I loved it. I enjoyed it from the time I walked through those gates, seeing your kids and your wife involved and other people volunteering their time. But I think it was a well-ran camp. We knew where we were supposed to be. We knew what time we were supposed to be. You got started on time. You stayed on track. And I think overall, the kids had a great experience. And like I told my group when they got to my station, your parents paid a lot of money for you to be at this camp. First and foremost, you need to thank those guys, parents or whoever got you here. Then you came here to learn and have fun. And I think overall those kids really took to the coaching, not just at my station, but talked to other coaches that had stations. They took to the coaching. They had fun. And just hearing the feedback after the camp, I commend you, brother. I appreciate you having me there. I felt home in my element, being able to have the whistle and teach those kids. So I commend you. That was a great camp. And I think you can take that and build on it.
Dude, it was fun because I walked around and watched all the stations, watched the coaches, and it was funny. I could tell, like when you were setting up the cones and you had the kids going through drills, I'm like, he feels comfortable out there. Like this is what Kenny loves to do. So that was pretty cool. But you had 3 keys, and I forget exactly how you phrased it. You mentioned it because we handed out camp MVP balls at the end of the day. But you had 3 keys that you were telling the kids, and I don't know if you'd be cool with kind of sharing that with our listeners out there. What were those 3 keys that you were sharing with the kids that as they came through your station?
I also applied this in school and in life. First and foremost, they didn't know us. They hadn't been coached by us. There are some youth football coaches that you had, but I think did some great things also. But the first thing I told them was being able to listen to what we were telling them, how to do a certain drill, how to take a certain step. Listen, then being able to retain it. And what I mean by retain it means remember it. And the third thing was being able to execute it. So every station, I would start that off with those 3 words, and then ask them, what was the 3 things we're working on? Listen, retain, execute. And for the most part, all of them were able to remember it and do it. And even when we got over to hand out the MVPs, the guy that I thought was a really good player, not only a really good player, but I think he was a teacher because he took upon himself to help other kids out doing the drills when he saw them taking the false steps or not shuffling right. I asked him, I put him on the spot. He knew it, but he couldn't recite it. And I think it was the pressure of being in front of all those people. But listen, retain, and execute. And that's, I think, Nebraska has to do that. Going back to Nebraska, they have to listen to the coaches. They have to believe in the coaches. Be able to retain what they've been taught, not from spring ball, summer, leading into fall, and then being able to execute. If they can't do that, then you won't have a 9-10 win season. It all boils down to, can they execute what the coaches want them to get done?
Dude, that's a phenomenal point. When that ball's kicked off August 28th on ESPN versus Cincinnati at Arrowhead, can they execute what they've been working on all off season? All right, my friend, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot.